Hi everyone, thank you so much for attending our pre-internship training session hosted by 10K IF alum Chloe Bezer today. The session forms part of our What I Wish I'd Known training series, which consists of a few sessions covering various topics that are being led by our alumni. Please note that this is a safe space for you to get your questions and queries answered by someone who's been in your shoes before. And don't forget to submit any internship related questions in the chat or the Q&A box. Wait a few moments for everyone to arrive and then we'll kick off.
Okay, so hi guys. So thanks for coming to the session today. So if you are in the chat at the moment, can you just message? I know you can't use a GIF function, but maybe if you can just let me know how you're feeling about your first day. Don't put any like LinkedIn links or anything at the moment because we're going to do that later. But if you can just let me know how you're feeling about your first day, that would be great. Okay, cool. Excited, nervous. Okay, we're more excited than nervous. That's good. Okay, someone said they don't know what to expect, but hopefully after today, you'll know what to expect.
Okay, we've seen a lot of responses.
That's really good. Cool. So ready to start?
Yeah, that's done, I think.
Amazing. Okay. So who am I and why am I going to talk to you about, my first day? So as Tiana mentioned, I'm a 10K alumni. So I did a internship with Vertex Pharmaceuticals as a marketing intern in 2024, so last summer. And then this summer, I'm going to do another internship with Blackbridge Communications as a client services marketing intern. And I am a final year, just finished medical science student. So I just finished my exams, my assignments, and my dissertation. And just a little bit about my internship experience. I've had many first days as I've mentioned, and today I'll give you kind of my top tips on how to prepare. So let me just grab these up. So in my first year, I found an internship at BAE Systems, so digital intelligence as a business analyst. So that was a 12-week placement, and I found that kind of through my uni on this platform called Handshake, and also looking like online on the Bright Network as well. And then in my second year, so last summer, that was the marketing internship. And I found that again through the 10K program. And then after I completed that, I decided I wanted to do something a bit different and a bit more similar to my degree. So I was a medical editor at Clarity for a few weeks, 12 weeks in total. And then this summer, I'm looking forward to doing my internship in client services. So firstly, what I'd like to say is congratulations. So getting an internship isn't easy, and you guys have worked really, really hard to be here. So just be proud of that. So do you mind just letting me know in the chat if you've started your internship? So just put yes, not yet, or soon, just so I can kind of know if you guys have started or if this is going to be useful for you. Okay, great. Like not many people have started, so Okay, cool. No one started yet. Amazing. Okay, so that's going to be really useful. And I'm just going to kind of take you through some tips to your first day and things like that. Okay. So a lot of you are probably thinking loads and loads of different things about what to expect and what your internship is going to look like. So the three main days, first days I'm going to talk about are these three internships that I mentioned, because some internships have different ways of working. So you can either have an in-person internship where you're in the office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you're kind of commuting in and doing all of your work at the office. But I think a lot of internships now are hybrid. So hybrid kind of means that you work from home some of the days and you work in the office, kind of maybe 3 days working in the office and 2 days working at home. And kind of the terms and conditions around that is up to your manager and up to your company. But you will be informed about that when you do your internship. And then the medical editor internship was fully remote. So I just did that on my laptop at home. So that was a completely different experience as well. And that's where you kind of need to be thinking more about like messaging etiquette and things like that. But kind of what was I thinking on my first day? So I had all of these questions flying around about imposter syndrome, like what time do people come to work? What time do people leave? There was a water fountain I didn't know how to use. I had to ask for help. Like there are loads of different things, kind of you're probably thinking and things that I was thinking. And kind of what I want to do now is just put you guys at ease in terms of giving you like a checklist of what to know, what to expect on your internship. And I think that would be really useful for you guys. So firstly, like I mentioned before, all first days are different, but most of the time, mainly your first day is all about getting settled. So normally when you're in the office, the first thing that will happen is a building tour and orientation. So when you actually go to the office, they'll show you the layout, the kitchen, kind of where your desk is, and also where to get good snacks. Because I remember my first internship, there was like 3 Kit Kats in the fridge, which was great. So I think just kind of knowing where things are is also good. And some other companies, so BAE, that internship, I actually went away for 3 days to do an induction at another site. So potentially that might be something that you guys do as well. So just kind of understanding, they'll give you all of the steps and things you need to know before your first day. But most of the time, it's just kind of like a basic orientation of the building and things like that. And secondly, you'll normally get a laptop and an ID. So that normally all happens on your first day. So you'll spend maybe an hour or something with your IT team. They'll give you your login details. They'll connect you to the Wi-Fi. They'll show you your ID badge, kind of where you can access, where you're not allowed to access. And they may even take a photo of you too. So make sure you're photo ready on your first day, because I remember being a bit taken aback when I was told that there was going to be a picture taken of me. So just knowing that as well. And then, of course, you're going to meet the team. So you would have probably been in communication with your manager, or potentially there's a buddy scheme that you guys are involved in as well. And you most likely would have been introduced to those before that day. But if you haven't actually met them in person, this would be a great time to kind of talk to your manager, talk to your buddy or mentor, and also potentially you're interning with other interns. So just meeting each other and kind of putting yourselves at ease by making new friendships and things like that. And introductions are very important. You'll be asked who you are a lot. Everyone will ask who you are, what you do, and things like that. But don't worry, we are about to prepare next. So, learning how to introduce yourself. So, for my first internship, I was literally 19 years old in my first year of uni, hadn't really done anything professional. So, even though it sounds a bit basic, like knowing how to introduce yourself properly is very important, and knowing what to say as well. So what I would like you guys to do now is kind of introduce yourselves in the chat. So for example, for me, I'm Chloe, I study medical science, and then the internship I'm doing, and then also a fun fact about you. So my fun fact is I have a twin sister. And just keep it, you know, clear, confident, friendly, and you're going to use this all the time. So just kind of have it as like a framework as well. So if you don't mind just putting a message in the chat, kind of showing these things, and you can also share your LinkedIn as well. Oh, you had an exam this morning. It's not fun. Hope you did well. Oh, yeah, I was in sister as well. Love that. But yeah, a fun fact always gives you like a point of communication. So when you're talking to people, it's always good. There's a lot of twins in the chat. That's crazy. But yeah, it's also a good talking point. So if you tell someone something fun about you or something interesting, it will really connect you with people. Wow, that's interesting. We've got some marathon runners, project management. Well done for running a half marathon. You ran a half marathon. That's cool. Three languages. What three languages can you speak, Sabrina? Cool. See, so that's like a great way because now if we were in person, you'd be able to Somali, English, and French. Oh, amazing. So yeah. Oh, you don't have a twin sister. Love that. Okay. So yeah. So if you were in person, this would be great to kind of talk to people, introduce yourselves, and kind of get the conversation going because a big thing, especially with LinkedIn and the whole point of internships really is just building that network and talking to people. So this is definitely a great way to do that. Okay, so the next thing. So I know some people are still messaging in the chat, but I know something that I was quite worried about when I was starting my internship is what to wear. And I know that sounds a bit trivial, like why do you need to worry about what to wear? But at the same time, your appearance and the way you come across and first impressions do matter. So if you guys can put in the chat which one you would choose for your first day. A lot of people are going for A, a lot of people going for D, some people going for A or D, B, A, D, E. Cool. So we do have a mixture of everything. Yeah, I'll just wait for more to come through. But yeah, so everyone has said at least one of those options. And that is kind of the whole point of this exercise, is just the fact that actually you could probably wear all of these to work. It just obviously depends on the setting. Like normally you have some communication with your manager regarding dress code, or HR will probably tell you what the dress code is. Normally they'll say like smart casual, which again could be any of these things really, depending on how you take that. But what I would recommend on your first day is kind of go more formal than less formal, because you can dress up, but you can't really dress down. Like you can dress down, but you can't really dress up. That's what I meant to say. And kind of like a little story about that is when I was doing my first internship at BAE, we had that induction that I mentioned. And one of the guys wore like cargos and a t-shirt where everyone else was in suits. And like you could just kind of tell that he felt a little bit underdressed, but it was fine eventually. Like, you know, he was working in his team and nothing really hindered him from that. But it was just kind of that first impression. You want to, you want to feel comfortable as well, because you wouldn't want to feel uncomfortable being underdressed as well. But kind of make sure on your first day, you kind of go with the dress code. Be you as well. Don't try and like dress how you wouldn't normally dress. Like just kind of make it professional and make it work appropriate, and then use your first day as well as kind of a period to like look around, see what your manager's wearing, see what other people is wearing, and then kind of fit the vibe of that, I would say. So the next thing I would want to go through with you guys is a first day checklist. So before you arrive, know your start time, know your location. And if you're going to be starting online or a remote position, just know, that your laptop is working, that Zoom is working, and where you need to be. Because I know when I did my internship at Vertex, like it was in central London, and I'd never been that way before. There was like a closed road. I had to go around another way. So another part of that is actually giving yourself enough time to get there. And then, like I mentioned before, just confirm the dress code. And then pack some essentials. On your first day, you're not going to need loads of things. You're not going to need, anything too crazy. Just maybe a notebook and pen to make any notes. So if they give you a laptop, can you still take yours? Yeah, so if you want to, but I wouldn't say that it would be useful, just because like they'll probably be giving you work to do anyway. They'll probably be giving you different things, so you wouldn't necessarily want to be taking your laptop, because it's just another thing to carry that you probably won't use, but you still probably can take it. It's just whether you'll be able to use it or not, I'm not too sure. And then again, writing down some initial expectations and goals. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just setting those goals so you know exactly what you want to get out of that internship is very important, because then that's kind of how you can reflect on your internship and kind of see how well you've done. And then, of course, have a good night's sleep. Make sure you eat, you get to bed early, and you're ready to start the day, because you don't want to be spending the day tired. Like if you're commuting as well, it takes a lot out of you. I remember I was commuting like 2 hours sometimes for my internship. So it's just making sure that you've slept and you're not going to be tired throughout the day. And then on the day itself, I would always say arrive early. So again, making sure that you get to the right place at the right time is very important, because it all links into those, good impressions. Then be ready to introduce yourself. So like I mentioned before, kind of follow that little structure. And then as you get more confident with it, you can just kind of go with it from there. And then take notes. So that's why I said to bring a notebook, because you want to be understanding who people are, because you might forget names, but if you make a note of someone's name and their role and kind of like the area that they work in, then you can kind of flick back to that throughout. Also kind of corporate lingo. So lots of people will use like contractions for stuff and acronyms and things like that. So maybe making a note of all of those when you hear them as well is a very good use of your notebook. And then just asking questions. Like, don't feel the need that you have to ask a question, but if you really do have a question that you want answered, definitely ask it. And then be present. So I know someone asked about like bringing a laptop, but like making sure you're not multitasking, making sure that you're like fully focused on what they're asking you to do. It just, one, it helps you get the job done better, and it also gives like a better impression, and you're more focused and more locked in, and you'll get more out of it. And then when you finish the day, like, congratulations, you've gone through it. It's it's a big achievement to go through your first day of an internship and not be too overwhelmed, and be able to connect with your manager and things. That's really good. But firstly, just like kind of reflect, even if it takes like 5 minutes, to even make some notes in your notebook about what went well. And then if you have any questions or anything that you need answered for day 2, definitely write those down. And then if anyone did help you or anything, just drop them a message as well, would also be useful. But outside of, your first day, I just wanted to give you some things that will really help you kind of stand out in your internship. So as I mentioned before, the week 1 is all about settling in. So that's where I would say you would want to be setting those goals with your manager. I know for me, my internship with Vertex, I made an internship diary. I set some goals with my manager, and it made it really easy to follow what I wanted, because then as I was doing that in my first week, she was able to set me up with meetings with people that I wanted to speak to because I was interested in sales a little bit. So I had some sales contacts that I was put in contact with, which was really useful. And then as you progress to your second week, that's when you're kind of exploring. So kind of all of the goals you've set in week one, you kind of want to be using that in week 2 and week 3, and just kind of soaking up all the information, learning about the industry, learning about the company, learning about all the different functions and how stuff works. Because I know for my first internship, especially, like if you've never been in a professional environment before, like kind of even knowing email etiquette and how to use your technology and things like that are really little things, but they're things that are really going to help you and really transfer through your professional career. And then week 4 to 5 is building momentum. So all of those things you've been doing, just keep doing them, keep asking questions, keep talking to people and asking for help. And then week 6 to 7 is where you connect more with people and grow. So there's a lot of things called like coffee chats. You don't always have to have coffee, but just like kind of set up a little 5-minute chat with someone or a 10-minute chat with someone and kind of like network. So if there are people, maybe you've had a call with someone and it's been really interesting and you want to continue the conversation, try and set up a meeting with them and email them. Because as an intern, the best part about being an intern is everyone is willing to talk to you, everyone is willing to help you and allow you to grow. So just kind of using that and leveraging that is a good thing to do, especially towards the end of your internship, as it can kind of help you figure out what you want to do in the future as well. Because as much as you're giving back to the company, you need to see what you need to get out of it, hence like setting goals and things like that. Week 8 is, you know, reflect and finish strong. So I know that leaving a lasting impression is very important, because if you kind of have a look at everything you've achieved, have you achieved the goals that you set for yourself, and kind of making sure that you leave a lasting impression is really good. Because I know for me, I was able to do a capstone presentation. So I made sure that my presentation kind of reflected everything that I'd learned throughout my internship and kind of left a strong, lasting impression. So people remember you. And potentially, if you guys are kind of coming to the end of your degree like I am, being able to transfer that internship into a long-term opportunity or graduate opportunity is also another positive as well. So that's what I would say. And then kind of to summarize all of those things in 7 key points is the first one is be curious. So you want to be asking questions. I think for me, the best thing that I felt about being an intern was there's no stupid question. You're allowed to ask any questions, and not just being an intern in general. I think in the workplace, just if you have any questions, definitely ask them and take notes and just be really invested in the experience, because you guys have worked so hard to get here. So you want to make the most out of your experience and just understand how things work. And then secondly, as I mentioned before, building those key relationships. So if you introduce yourself, like I said, to different people, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in your direct team. Depending on how your company works, a lot of them allow you to kind of go off and explore and talk to different people. And maybe you will have some free time in your calendar. So making most of your Outlook calendar and booking in little slots with people is really useful, and it'll help keep you organized as well. And just meeting new people. And these are some relationships that will probably help you even after. I know for me that I have one of my best friends now was someone I met on my first internship, and she was actually my like buddy, like my welcome buddy and things like that. So it's just, you don't know who you're going to meet at these places. So just being enthusiastic, confident, and just putting yourself out there. And then the third thing was balancing hard and soft skills. So what does that actually mean? It means kind of you want to, similar to how you set your goals, you want to kind of look at things that you can develop. So your communication, teamwork, things like that. But then in terms of your hard skills, it's more like, do you know how to send an email? Do you know how to take minutes in a meeting? Like that was something that I asked to do when I was on my internship, because I'd never done it before. And it really kind of helped me with skills that are going to help me in my professional life as well. And as I mentioned, just tracking your progress. So those goals that you had at the beginning, you could put them in an intern diary. Like I know I did that with my manager. And when we had our weekly meetings and our weekly touch points, I was able to let her know what I'd done the previous week. So she can kind of see, oh, Chloe's done this. But then also if I had any questions or anything like that, it just really allowed me to like kind of organize my thoughts. And then also asking for feedback. So if you've been given a project or you've been given a piece of work to do and you're not too sure, don't wait till the end of the project that you've done to kind of ask for feedback. Like, ask throughout, and just kind of make a really good working relationship with your manager as well, and like an open space to ask for that feedback. And 6, like, be yourself. I think you sometimes get caught up in this like professional world of you have to be like this, you have to be like that, but you were chosen for a reason. Like, don't try to like perform. Just make sure that you're doing exactly what you said you were going to do on your application, and just being the most authentic version of yourself. And then lastly, again, reflection is so important. So just thinking about what you learned, what challenged you, what you want to try next. Because if you're constantly thinking about what you've done, what your experiences are, then you can always kind of develop and kind of build on what you've learned, and then really get the most out of your internship. Oh, sorry. So just finally then, so this is a picture of me at Vertex. So as I said, like, I've never expected my internships to lead to so many extraordinary opportunities, meeting different people, building skills, confidence, and friendships that I'll literally have forever. I think making the most out of your internship and really enjoying it, you know, going to social events, going to work events, kind of enjoying the work that you're given as well, and taking all the skills from it is invaluable. And, you know, just if you ever doubt yourself, kind of just remember that you deserve to be here. You're not lucky. You've earned it. You've worked hard. You've put in the work. So you've beaten so many barriers that we've spoken about, that we haven't spoken about, and this is just the beginning. So I wish you all the best. I hope you know, you have the best time on your internships. And yeah, so if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I also have started a blog page called Ultimately Uni, where lots of different people kind of talk about their university experiences. So we're always looking for new people to write for us. So if you're interested, definitely let me know. And then yeah, connect me on LinkedIn. That QR code you can scan, and it will connect you with me on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, I think that's everything. So there's time. We have enough time now for 30 minutes of questions. That's good.
Thank you, Chloe, for such an in-depth presentation. We actually do have a question that's come
Okay.
through. Someone has asked, what would be your advice if interning fully remote? How do I thrive?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good question. So, as I mentioned, one of my internships were fully remote, and I think the first thing is on your first day, making sure all of your connections, everything you like, all the apps you need to use are all working fine. And then in terms of thriving, making sure that you know your points of contact. So, if you have to book like a video call or something, like making sure that you're kind of booking those with your manager and speaking to your manager frequently. And then in terms of like day to day, just being active, and just kind of, even if you have finished all your work, or maybe you're doing work behind the scenes that you don't need to message your manager about, maybe just giving them like a little update. Because obviously when you're in the office and people are physically seeing you doing work, that's fine, because you know, you don't have to tell them you're doing work because they can see it. But when you're remote, I would definitely say, like, just message and just be like, oh, hi, just letting you know what I've done today. And then that will kind of give you like a really good kind of one-to-one relationship with your manager and people in your team as well.
Perfect. And someone has said, what do you do if they throw you in the deep end with something you've never done before?
Yeah. So my first internship, I remember I had to do like a strategic communication strategy, and I had no idea what that even meant. So the first thing is actually understanding what they're asking you. So always just kind of, if they've given you, for example, a presentation to do, kind of looking at the points that they've given you. And if you're not too sure what it is, kind of ask them to go into more detail. So if it's your manager that gave you that, kind of just be like, oh, do you mind explaining what you mean by this, or do you mind kind of telling me what deliverable you want? So for example, they might want a presentation, but they might want you to kind of make a report. So it's just kind of knowing exactly what it is that you need. And then also using your team. So as an intern, you're not just going to be by yourself, like you're going to be in a big, wider team that are all there to help you as well. So just asking team members, because maybe if you haven't done it before, maybe one of them have been tasked with the same thing. So just kind of asking questions and not being afraid to ask for help. And also, you do have access to the internet as well. I know that sounds a bit like silly to say, but I think sometimes we get a bit scared using the internet, but you definitely can like quickly Google like terms and different things to use as well. So definitely do that.
I love that. Thank you. Before I go into the 2 questions in the Q&A box, someone has put in the chat, for an internship that is in a sector you've never been part of or not known about before 10,000 by interns, do you have any tips?
Yeah, of course. So my first internship, like you saw, it was in business analysis, which got nothing to do with medical science. So for me, I think again, being an intern, it's like they've given you that role, not necessarily because you have experience, because the whole point of doing an internship is getting experience. So it's like understanding what skills it is that you need and what skills kind of that you can leverage and what you can use and what your strengths are. So understanding as well like why you want to work in that industry as well, because obviously like even if you haven't necessarily done that, an internship is a learning opportunity. So if you're looking in a sector that you're not really sure about or you don't really know anything about, just kind of looking at it from a learning perspective and just being like, okay, let me kind of find out more about it, speak to different people in the sector and kind of learn about it beforehand. Another thing I would also say is if you know someone, or maybe on LinkedIn, you can see that someone's done that internship before you, maybe shoot them a message and ask them, because I did that for my Vertex internship. And it was really helpful because it just kind of put me at ease in terms of like my first day nerves, and it helped me know exactly what I needed to do and kind of what kind of things what kind of projects you'll be working on and things like that. And then also one final thing for that is kind of looking up the industry or the sector and just doing a little deep dive. So have a look at the different companies that are in that sector, kind of look at what they do, look at what you're interested in, and then kind of see where you fit into all of that as well. I think that would be really helpful.
Oh, that's super helpful. Thank you. Got a lot coming through. Okay, so someone else has asked, what top tips would you give to someone looking to transform their internship into a full-time position? Which is quite
Okay.
a commonly asked question. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very common question, and it's a good question to ask. And I actually want to be really blunt with this question as well, because I actually did get someone message me one time on LinkedIn about one of my internships and about long-term opportunities. And the first thing I would say is actually looking at the company itself first, because you don't want to disappoint yourself before you try. Like you don't want to try so hard to get this full-time position, but if there's no jobs available or if there's no opportunities to actually transform that into a full-time position, then it's better not to kind of put all of that effort into doing that if it's not an option. So firstly, actually understanding whether that is an option or not. So speaking to the HR department, speaking to the team, and because it was something that I discussed when I was doing my internship. And when I kind of realized that that wasn't something that was offered, or you'd have to apply like another route, kind of through an entry level role, it was something that I felt was quite difficult to do. So I think kind of looking, I know some companies, they do leverage that and they do have graduate opportunities or grad schemes or something you can kind of transfer over to after you finish. But just firstly, like knowing what the options are. And secondly, if those options are available to you, making sure that you stand out. And I say that in the best way possible, not just kind of everyone says that, make yourself stand out, but just make sure you're being yourself, but also being visible. Like you want to make sure that if there's a team of 8 of you, you're kind of making sure that you're visible and you're going to all of the extra sessions they put on for you, or speaking to your manager often and kind of discussing your plans with your manager as well, because don't internalize these things. You don't have a lot of time on an internship. So making sure that you set those goals and you let people know like that you are looking for a full-time position, even if it's kind of like subconsciously in little conversations. If people know you're looking, they'll be looking at you and they'll be looking, oh, okay, she'll be good in my team or he'll be good in my team. So just making yourself stand out that way, and talking to your manager, setting up your goals, and then making yourself kind of visible and stand out. I hope that answered your question.
If it doesn't, please feel free to, I don't know, like revise your question in the Q&A box as we have a lot of time. I would say I think it did adequately respond to it. Faith has asked, what are some of the opportunities that have come out of your internship?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's quite a nice question actually as well, because I've just finished my degree, like I said. And there was one my first year internship. I actually could have potentially got on the grad scheme for that, but I was just in my first year, so I didn't want to like tie myself down to something in my third year. But in terms of like what opportunities have come out of it, I think the skills that I've learned and the things that I can put on my CV. So kind of understanding the professional side of things, the marketing skills, the consulting skills, and kind of those leadership capabilities have kind of allowed me to like progress into different things. So I've just kind of come out of applying to a whole host of graduate jobs in like life sciences, marketing, and management. And I actually just got accepted onto the graduate management program, the NHS graduate management program. So that's like a 2-year course. I'd recommend anyone from any background to apply to that because it's such a transferable graduate scheme that you can literally do anything in after. And it is quite good because you can kind of link it to your hometown. So I'm actually going to be working in the hospital near where I live, which is really good. So it's just, that's like a really good opportunity. And I think all of the things that I've done for my internships and all of the experience that I've been able to reflect on in interviews and assessment centers like has really came through from those internships and has allowed me to, you know, get a graduate position. So that's a really exciting job that has come out of it. Oh, thank you.
That's incredible. Well done. Yeah. Someone else has also asked if the internship is quite rotational, how can I make the most out of each department, like sales or communications, if they're quite short periods?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question because I think the two kind of types of internships are you either stay in one place for the entire time or you're able to switch. And I think I've had both. I've had like just being in one and I've had the switching. And I think when you do switch, it's like normally they do give you one project to work on within that particular sector. So what I would do in that sense, I would kind of identify who the key people are in that area that can be your points of contact and be your kind of information hubs, and then talk to them. Also kind of get stuck in the projects and kind of really understand what those key sections are, because if you're trying to use those rotational things like marketing or sales and you're trying to differentiate between what you want to do, this is the best time to do that. So just also writing down what you like about each sector, what you don't like, kind of what you think you need to work on in terms of, do you want to learn a new skill or do you want to develop in some way? So I think kind of using like reflection again in that is quite important. And then just kind of speaking, because normally you have like one manager. So maybe they can see your performance. And if you're not too sure, like maybe they can comment on things for you and kind of seeing where your like strengths lie as well, if you want to try and make a decision. But I would say making sure that you're being really active and asking questions and kind of going through the process, because there is normally like a set program of what you're going to be doing. But also if you're not too sure and your internship isn't necessarily rotational, setting up those one-to-one meetings or asking someone a bit more about their job if you're interested in it is always a good thing to do. So I would say like just putting yourself out there really.
I couldn't agree more. Leo has asked, aside from keeping a diary, were there any other ways you tracked your progress during your internship? How did you take initiative in your development without seeming too forward?
Mm-hmm. I do think I come across quite forward in an internship situation, I can't lie, because sometimes you do have to like, and I'm not saying it it's not necessarily a bad thing, like to come across too forward. But I think in terms of obviously not the excluding the diary, I would say the meetings were really good in terms of I like I mentioned, I wanted to work in sales, or I wanted to understand what sales was because I was doing marketing. And one of the other interns I was with, like she also was interested in it. So we all set up a little group and we actually went to the sales team, and we ended up having like a day with them, and we were able to kind of go to they have this like big meeting when kind of a new therapy area is being launched, and we were able to go and kind of see like the different account managers and meet some of the healthcare professionals as well. So it's just kind of like working with your team as well, because potentially you're going to be working with other interns. So what I would say is, if you and some other interns share the interests, like make sure that you all go together, because I think going as a team and going as like a unit is actually more powerful sometimes than just going by yourself. And then also sometimes as well, I don't think you'll come across too forward if you know exactly what you're kind of looking for. Like if you know what you want to do, then kind of your manager's going to appreciate that as well. And then in terms of tracking your progress, I would say like if there's a particular sector, so like let's say you've been asked to do a presentation, like ask for feedback on that presentation. So like if it was on Zoom, for example, ask people to message feedback in the chat, take a screenshot of it and keep it. Because I remember I did that. And it kind of helps to kind of see like what you can improve on, what you've done well, and if they kind of like resonated with that. And then anytime you do any sort of presentation or anything like that, make sure you ask your audience for feedback straight away, because I think sometimes if you go away and you wait a little bit, they probably won't give you accurate feedback. But if you ask them straight away, I would say that's one way of getting really good feedback. I hope that answered your question.
That's helpful, thank you. Someone has also asked, does securing an internship in your first year or university give you a significant advantage over other candidates later on?
That's a really good question. For me personally, I think it has given me some sort of advantage, just because I've been able to leverage experience from my first year, second year, and also my third year now. And I think it does give you that kind of, it shows you're determined. It shows that you're looking for opportunities. It shows that you're actually like going through all of those interview processes and the application process as well. So in terms of like just kind of soft skills, like it shows that you're really, go getter, you're going to try and get an internship. Not saying that if you've tried and you haven't been successful, that's not what's going to come across, because you can also reflect on that in interviews and say, look, I did try to get an internship in my first year and I was going through all these application processes. So it is something that you can leverage that way. But in terms of like making you stand out, I think if you have varied experiences, so someone like me, now going into like general management, I think having experiences in different things kind of allowed me to get that, because they can see that I've got skills in different areas. So in terms of like an advantage over others, I would say yes, but I wouldn't say you're necessarily at a disadvantage if you haven't done one, just because you can use your experiences that you have got to kind of make you stand out as an applicant. Like it doesn't mean that just because you haven't done an internship means you're at a disadvantage. It just means that you have to use the experience that you do have kind of to make yourself stand out.
That's a really helpful answer, thank you. And someone asks, would you have considered temporarily living closer to your internship?
Yeah, 100%, because I know that some people that I interned with, they kind of had friends in the area, like they were all doing internships in London, so they all kind of got a shared house in London for the summer. And I think that's great. I think just for me, especially, so my first year, like I said, I was 19, first job. I didn't really want to just live in London by myself. And my commute, it was a little bit long. So I'm from Bedford originally, and that was about an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. It just depends on what train is available. And I would have considered it. It's just, one is the cost as well, because obviously I know for my first year, I still had to pay for my student accommodation when I kind of was doing my internship, but I was living at home. So it's like also the cost element of it. If you can afford it and convenience works, like I would definitely do the more convenient option, because you want to make sure that you're able to do other things outside of your internship. Because I think sometimes, like obviously when you're doing a job and you're commuting maybe 2 hours to get there, then doing it till 5, then going home at 7, then I think that means you kind of miss out on some things. But I would say if you can like comfortably commute, then definitely do that. And if you can move closer, then definitely do that as well. I wouldn't say that it's an advantage or disadvantage.
it's an interesting perspective. And last question that we've received is, do you think it's best to have lunch with others in your team, or can you keep to yourself during lunch? If yes, how do you go about asking them without pushing it too much?
Hmm. Lunch is a really good one because I think initially the first day, especially, like they'll normally your team will normally set up a lunch for you. So you'll normally have like a team lunch or something like that. And if you don't do that, then potentially your someone in your team or your buddy will kind of tell you like, oh, this is where we normally go for lunch. Or I know they showed us all the nice spots that they used to go for lunch. And then also show you like where the fridges are and where things like that are. So your first day, you'll normally have lunch like with your team, or if you bought something, you can just bring that with you to go and have lunch with your team. And then kind of as you go on, I would say, if you want to have lunch by yourself, you're not going to be at like, it's not going to be bad if you have lunch by yourself. Like, of course, you've been with these people all day, you want a break. I get that. So I think kind of understanding like where you can go and sit as well, because some places have like communal areas, some you can kind of just go and sit in like a little pod by yourself, so just kind of knowing that as well. And then also if you're with interns, kind of, I know loads of people want to just have lunch like with just the interns and like some of the grads as well, but like also branch out. Like if there is an option, like lunch is a good time to talk to different people in kind of an informal setting as well, so doing that. But yeah, so it's just up to you really. Like if you want to have lunch with others, you can. If you want to kind of take a step back and just like refresh yourself like over lunch, then that's totally fine too.
No, I agree. Like, don't ever I guess succumb to like any pressure, especially if you're quite
Mm,
like shy. But
yeah,
it is definitely a great chance for you to connect with your peers in a relaxed setting. Also learn how they work.
yeah.
Um, Someone has asked, what are the most important things I should be doing now to prepare for a strong placement year after second year in terms of skills, experience, and application strategy? If you have any
That's a really
advice
good
on that.
question. So I would say for a placement, so if your internship is linked to your placement, that's a really good way to kind of um like kind of use that to your advantage. And if you know that you're going to be applying for a placement year after your internship, what I would say is that's where I would use those goal setting techniques that I said, because maybe for the placements you're applying for, normally the job descriptions are kind of on there, the key skills and things that they want are on there as well. So then using your internship and molding that from the job description to kind of use that as be like, okay, so I've done this skill here, I've learned this experience, I've had exposure to this thing, I've spoken to someone in this sector. And then when you start applying for your jobs and you start applying for your placement opportunities, you can literally use your internship as like that kind of leverage in terms of that. And then in terms of application, so at my university, we have an employability service. And through that, we kind of have a very structured way of doing like CVs and interviews and stuff. And for me, when I've been applying for things, like tailoring my CV has been the most successful like part of my application, I would say. Like most of my applications do get through to the other stage, because I think the way you use your CV is very important. Like you don't want to just send a CV to someone that's kind of generic and not tailored to them. So mentioning the company name, mentioning, the key things on their job description in your CV, and making them see you in the role. So like using things that you've done and putting yourself in a situation. So let's say you've worked in marketing, and then you can say, oh, I had to do some market research for this company, and I had to speak to different people in different teams. I had to write up my findings and present them back to my manager. And I know that's something that will be used in this company, for example. So just linking everything together and kind of making sure that they see you in that role, because I think sometimes we kind of get lost in like, oh, we're just doing an internship, that's great, like that's it. But just kind of in the back of your mind have these things of like, what am I learning, how is that going to help me with my placement year, and kind of what if the industry is the same, then kind of like the hard skills that I was mentioning, so like actual things that you can do, for example, like market research or advertising or sales or something. But then if it isn't necessarily directly linked, then using the soft skills side of it to kind of link. So just making the most of like reflecting on what you're doing now, and if you know exactly what kind of things you want to apply for, looking at those applications and then tailoring your internship to kind of help reflect that.
Thank you for that. Um, Someone has also asked, how do you ask to attend other events such as like graduation, appointments, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well, because I think some people get a bit nervous, like asking for time off, because you guys are entitled to time off. Like as an intern, you are allowed to take days off, you are allowed to use your annual leave. And if you don't use it, you'll just get the money back later anyway. So it's like, I would say you can always use it. And there was this system, I think it's called SAP, or something like that. There were two systems they used. It was either SAP or another one. But basically, you can book off annual leave. But what you'd have to do is speak to your manager first. I would always say, speak to your manager. And if you know these dates before you start, the first time, because I remember I did this with, I had a meeting that I had to attend to one of the days. And as soon as you know all of your things, if you had a list of all of the events that you potentially needed off, put that in your notebook your first day. And when your manager's kind of asking you like general questions, you can kind of speak to them and just be like, when they ask you, do you have any questions? Just say, yeah, I've got these few events, I've got my graduation, I've got other things like that. Like, and is it possible for me to take time off? Just because these events are important for me to attend. And then most of the time they'll say yes. And if it is something where it's clashed with something that you need to be there for, then most of the time they'll be understanding, and most of the time it's not too serious that you can't take time off. So definitely speak to your manager and understand what system and what process it is. They'll normally explain it to you on your first day, and if they don't, speak to HR or speak to your manager and they'll explain kind of how to book time off. But definitely just know, if you have the dates that you need to get booked off, just kind of do it on your first or second week, or just your first week. Just kind of make sure you're asking those questions and getting time booked off.
Great. There was kind of a bit of a follow-up question of someone asking, how about if they say you won't be paid for days off? Example, my graduation.
Um, I think annual leave, so that is unpaid. No, yeah, it's unpaid. So when you take time off, it isn't necessarily paid for, because I don't think you're, like, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, Tiana, but I don't think
Yeah.
you are like it's in your package, isn't it? So it's like when you get annual leave, it's like you take the day, but then it's kind of paid for anyway, isn't
Yeah,
it?
my best advice would be, so if they've said you won't be paid for days off, first I would check contract, but I would also speak to HR to see, because that is going to be your best point of contact, and see if there's a way around it, or I guess figure out like dates or the best system or best approach for
Mm-hmm.
that. I would definitely speak to HR. They're the best team to speak to about anything regarding holidays and time off. But I would say typically it should be covered and you should be paid, but that is also at the organization's discretion. So yeah, speak to HR ASAP so you can get time off. Um, and someone has also asked, did you sign a contract of any sort with all the internships you did? So I'm guessing this kind of means like anything such as like NDAs and whatnot.
Yeah, so both of my internships, the BAE and Vertex, they required NDAs to be signed. They also require you to sign your contract. So you have kind of a contract of agreement that you have to sign. So that kind of outlines all the terms, so your pay, any benefits that the company offer, and all of that. So you definitely have to sign a contract. I'm trying to think what else I needed to sign. Sometimes they might need you to do a DBS. Like, it depends what job you're doing. But they might require some extra background checks on you or something. So always consider that, depending on what industry you're working in. Um, but I think that is it for the most part in terms of like you have your employment contract and then potentially like any NDAs and things. So yeah, I did have to sign an NDA for a couple of mine. So yeah, just have a look for
Thank you. There are a few questions that are quite similar
that.
in terms of orientation about work from home setup. So someone has asked, in terms of working home from setup, did the company help you with the expenses or you set up yourself? Another on, do you have any tips for curating an office-like environment if you're working from home but only have access like a bedroom slash desk or the kitchen table?
Hmm. Okay, so there's a big thing now about like ergonomics and like working from home and things like that. So normally, so for both of mine, they gave me a headset, they gave me a laptop, and they kind of asked you if you had stuff already. So my first year internship, I was quite fortunate. Like they provided me with a headset. I think they provided me with a monitor as well. So when I was working from home, I was able to have a monitor. I did have to get my own desk, unfortunately. Like it just depends on what kind of what your company offers. But I would definitely have a look, speak to HR. Normally, if there are things available, you'll be able to get them even as an intern. So just make sure you know who to ask. In terms of tips of setting it up, if you have a quiet place to do it, so your bedroom most of the time is probably the best place, just in terms of if other people in your house are working, you can do that. I wouldn't recommend working outside of that because I wouldn't recommend working in public, like a coffee shop or something like that, because you don't know what is going to be going on around you, so you can't really concentrate. So yeah, in terms of like setup, make sure you have a comfortable chair, a desk, maybe a monitor, a desk lamp, even like a wireless mouse, like things you don't really think about. They're kind of things that I would definitely recommend. But yeah, in terms of like money and reimbursement and payment for all of that, I would definitely aim those questions at like HR or your manager as well.
I agree, and I just want to quickly throw this out here. Before I started working at 10K, I was an intern for an influencer marketing organization, and then I became a marketing executive, and I had surgery, and I was like literally bedbound for like a few weeks, and I'd never asked an organization for anything. They were like my first corporate job, and I was afraid because I didn't know, and I didn't know if they'd be able to offer that support. And
Mhm.
they did. They got me a standing desk. So I'm always, I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
So I would definitely just ask and throw it out there, especially if you need those accessible accommodations too.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um okay, there's actually been a lot more that have come through. Oof. We're running out of time. Okay. Someone has asked, when is the best time to apply for placements or placement year?
Okay, that's a good question actually, because I think the time you apply is actually very important because in terms of getting access to all the opportunities, the earlier you apply, the better. Most of the time they October, November time. So have a look then. Have a look at the particular companies you want to work for. Because before they all open, have a look at all the companies and the industries. So have a look at the industry, sorry, and the sector. Then look at the companies within that sector, and then kind of have a look if they have graduate placement opportunities. Make a spreadsheet. Make some sort of thing to organize all of that. And then I would say, yeah, September, November is a good time, but you can kind of apply from that point all the way up until April. But I would say the best time to apply is from like October to January. Like that's where all the like kind of um all of the bigger companies are going to be putting their applications out. So definitely have a look then as well.
Super helpful. Thank you. A few questions again have been coming up about if you're the only intern, how do you
Mhm,
navigate that?
mhm. Oh
Especially
yeah,
if
I
you
just got a
have
question.
time. Yeah.
No, yeah, I have time. It's fine. So um, yeah, so being the only, so luckily, so the 10K intern scheme that I did with Vertex, we had a whole group of us. So I never had that thing of like feeling like the only one. For my first internship, I kind of had that thing of like I was 19. Everyone else was probably older than me. Everyone was kind of experienced or something like that. Um, so I would kind of say like making sure if you feel like if you're the only one in terms of like an intern, or you're the only one in terms of like background and things like that, you don't see anyone that looks like you in the office, just kind of making sure that you kind of find those points of contact, because normally there's a buddy scheme or a mentor scheme or something like that, and leveraging those relationships as well, I think is very important, if you are the only intern or you're the only one in the office. And then using this platform, like using 10K, connecting with other people and maybe speaking to other people about their experiences is also very helpful, to make you feel less alone or make it less daunting.
Thank you. And someone else has asked, what are some questions worth asking before you get started?
Mm-hmm. So the main one is what you want to get out of the internship. The next one is reread the job description before you go. And if there's anything you don't necessarily understand, or maybe there's some requirements that they're asking of you, kind of like understanding what they are. And if you have any questions around them, like write them down. I would say kind of maybe asking if there are any interns that have done it before that you can kind of get in contact with, or have a look on LinkedIn, try and look them up on LinkedIn and just get in contact with them that way. In terms of like specific questions, I would normally say like job specific questions are always good to ask, like and like career progression questions. So how you can progress your career. Are there any other training opportunities you can do while you're doing your internship? Are there any skills you can learn? What kind of things can I get out of this internship? And then kind of how you can give back to the company as well. So like, what can you do? What do you want to do actually in the internship? Like, is there something that you particularly want to do, that you can kind of ask about? So like, if you want to give a presentation in front of a big group of people, or you want to write up a document, or you want to use a process that you've used at uni or something like that. So maybe just like having those key questions in your head about kind of the general skills, but then also like kind of what you want to get out of it as well.
No, thank you for that. um, I'm just trying to get through some of the questions. Okay, a few seem to be of a similar nature again. If I haven't heard from the company since my acceptance or contract letter, should I email them asking for updates or further communication?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question, because I think I was really nervous, especially my first and second internships. Like I was really nervous about that, because you kind of hear like if you don't hear from them, is everything fine? But normally they're just kind of working on things behind the scenes, like setting stuff up for you in terms of like all of the tech, all the things like that. So if you don't hear from them, but you've accepted your offer and everything's fine, 10 like 9 times out of 10 like you're fine. And if you are feeling a little bit at ease, just definitely shoot HR a message, or the person you've been in contact with, just message them and email them and just be like, hi, I'm really looking forward to my internship. I just haven't heard from you in a while, just wanted to make sure that everything was fine, and if there's anything I could do to prepare. I think that kind of email would just kind of put you at ease. They'll answer, give you a straightforward email, and then that's fine. Because I know I had some correspondence about my upcoming internship, about the dates, because I know my graduation is in July, and initially they wanted me to work from July to August, but then they've changed it from June to July. So it's like they'll give you some little bits about that, and you can kind of talk, if there's any changes, like they will let you know. And if you haven't heard anything, it's probably because there's nothing for them to tell you. So you're probably fine. But if you do want to shoot them an email, definitely do that.
What I do also want to add is if you have been trying to get in contact with the org because there's anything pertaining to annual leave or any other request that is quite urgent, please use us as well, because as a community engagement assistant, I can get in touch with our account managers who own that relationship with the organization, and can get in touch with them on your behalf. So just want to say, please don't hesitate to also contact us if it is really pressing and the org hasn't gotten back to you within a normal, reasonable time frame. When I say reasonable, I mean within a week. It is typical to not hear back from someone within a week, even though it can feel a bit daunting, or you're like, But if it, as I said, if it's super urgent, needs to be responded to within a day or a couple of days, again, contact us. But if it's anything general, a week is normal. Just an FYI.
Yeah.
And we're on the last two questions. So, candidate has asked, what can one do if you finish the work you've been allocated and have free time in the office?
That's a really good question because there's a big thing about professionalism. And I think sometimes if you don't have something to do, you can just go on your phone, you can talk to other interns, you can kind of, like not mess about a little bit, but just kind of have like more informal conversations. But you never want to look like you're not doing anything. You never want to look like you're kind of taking time off or kind of like you can relax. Like if you want to quickly go on a walk around the office or step outside for a bit, you can always do that if you have some free time. But then what I would do is kind of do all the little admin bits, like if you need to sort out your calendar or you need to book in some meetings with someone or you want to take some time to reflect or anything like that. And also you can take that time to just rest. Like most of the time they have some coffee areas or snack areas or something you can go to and just maybe take 5 minutes to yourself. You can always obviously let your manager know that you're doing that, but I think kind of using that time, if you do have some little admin bits to do, definitely do those and kind of make sure you're on top of your work because a lot of projects they'll give you kind of run over a few days or a few weeks depending on what project you get given, so you can always be doing something, but if you do need to take time to like rest or refresh, like definitely do that as well.
Right, thank you so much for sharing your insights, Chloe. You are, as someone has said, quote unquote, incredibly resourceful and just incredible for sharing your journey and all of this knowledge, which I'm sure that, oh, someone's raised their hand. Okay, but I just want to say that I'm sure that all of our interns have found everything you shared today to be incredibly resourceful. And Chloe hasn't actually just stopped there. She has a resource sheet that we'll be sharing shortly as well. So I just want to thank you for taking the time out today to really provide this informal mentorship to our interns. I'm just going to quickly allow Yera to talk, if that's okay, because it seems like they have a question. Yeah.
Okay, so I've already done an internship, but I did it in school and I did after school. And I'm kind of I'm doing another internship this June to July, and I've been talking to the HR and everything seems fine and everything. I'm just wondering how can be converted to a grad scheme, and if the grad scheme, because I tried applying last year and I just managed to get an internship this year, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering the grad scheme, should I try applying to um small medium sized companies or medium sized companies, because I tried a grad scheme and nothing came out of it until this internship this year, so I'm a
Mm-hmm.
bit worried about this.
Did you get any feedback from your applications?
Yeah. Most times I just get stuck in the interview stages,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of dejecting, like a bit kind of sad about that, because I put you all into the cover letters, the CV, and then the
Yeah.
assessment, and then you get to the interview stages and you're just let down. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, the small how do you even know where the small skilled companies are, and
Mm-hmm.
how you I just need experience, at least more than just 3 months or just more than 4 months. I want something like a year or 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just completely wondering, how do you get into those small scale companies if the grad scheme is a bit tough to enter? Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
No worries. So there are also entry level roles as well. So you don't have to just limit yourself to graduate roles. Like there are sometimes you can have a look at the company's website and they'll have entry level roles as well. So that will kind of widen the things that you're able to apply for. And then what it sounds like is that you're getting through to the interview stages, but then it's
Yeah.
the interview stages that are letting you down. So
Yeah.
a lot of the time with those, so I've had so many rejections when it comes to interview stages, because even if your CV and that's perfect, lots of these companies have very specific criteria of what they're looking for, and it doesn't necessarily mean like you didn't do well. It just probably meant that you might not have hit that point that they were looking for you to hit. So I think definitely kind of going over. So normally, I don't know how it's worked for you, maybe you can clarify, but for me, when I've had these kind of interviews and interview stages and stuff, they've given me specific kind of areas to focus on. So is that the same for you? Is that what you've been given?
Most times it's not, basically just you are just invited for the interview. So I have to go all around, go a broad structure of everything. So you go to the website, you go to prepare interview questions they may ask.
Oh, that makes sense. So that's the first stage. Yeah, that makes sense, because that's like the first stage interviews. Normally it's with like a recruiter or someone in HR. And those interviews, yeah, you're right. You definitely want to be looking at the company. So then what you want to be doing, have you heard of the STAR technique?
Yes, I've tried it so many times, and the situation, the action you did, most times I'm just doing it in I'm not doing chronologically, but everything, yes. So I've used the employability, the career service every time, and it's just not going. I'm just, maybe the corporate structure is not for me, because it looks like
No, don't say that, because when I tell you, I had a whole tracker of all of these graduate jobs I've applied for, all of the interviews I've done, all of the prep I've done. And I think honestly, if you stop trying, you won't get a position. So I know that sounds quite like blunt, but you do need to keep going with it. And I think making sure that you're asking for feedback, because for me, like, I've applied for like hundreds of roles and I've got this one graduate scheme. So it's like just kind of weighing up as well, kind of what you're up against, because sometimes it's not necessarily you, it's just maybe that opportunity isn't there yet and it will come onto the market soon, or maybe there will be an opportunity coming for you. I would say, kind of, if you're looking for more experiences, like, this internship's great now. Like, now you've got an internship, that will give you even more things to talk about, and it'll kind of build on your experience. So any experience is good. And what I would say that has been really good for me is, when you're doing an interview, asking the interviewer kind of to explain their career journey and kind of get them to really be involved in the interview as well. Like, don't make it like a very formal, try and make it a bit less formal by asking them about themselves and asking them about the company, and just showing your enthusiasm for the company as well. I think that really lets you like stand out. I think making sure that you kind of know what you're talking about as well. So when people kind of research a company, they kind of just go onto the main page, write down their values, and that's it. But kind of make yourself even stand out, like align everything that you've done with them. So like, when they look at you, they look at someone that works for them already, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, link yourself. So for example, their value is I don't know, teamwork. So then you then say, I understand, being a team player is very important in this job role, and in your company. It's something that I align well with because I've had experiences doing XYZ where I worked in a team. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you want to make those connections and kind of make yourself stand out and make yourself look like you're working for the company already. And that's what I really say. And I think when you start doing those things and you start making those changes and making yourself like kind of a part of the company, because even me, like, there was a position I applied for recently, a graduate program in life sciences, and I didn't get the position, but the feedback I got wasn't negative. The feedback was, you really made us feel like you could work for us. Like, I really want to get you into the company. And that wasn't like an end of the road opportunity. Like, that was kind of like, if there's an entry level position coming up, they'll contact me, kind of thing. So making sure that you're, even if you don't necessarily get the job, you've made such a good impression that, there are going to be opportunities for you. So I think just doing that will be really helpful. I know that's a lot of information, but
thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries.
I just want to thank you again, Chloe, Sharon will be waiting. No, you've honestly been incredible, and I really just want to thank you so much for your time to share this wisdom with everyone. I think we're gonna wrap it up here because of time on our end. But if you do have any final words, please feel free to share them before we end the webinar.
Yeah, but well, I just wanted to say, like, congratulations for getting internships, guys. Like, it is, you know, a difficult thing to do. And if you guys do have any questions, like, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. Like, that's completely fine. So, yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, and take care, everyone. Bye.